Hi and welcome to Mark's Motivational Podcast, another Authors Tuesday, and I'm delighted to welcome along tonight Brona Mills. She's an Amazon best-selling author, and she's an author service on bronzemills.com, and she does creating writing facilitator as well. So Brona, it's great to welcome you on the podcast today. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No, you're very welcome. It's great to welcome you on. So, we'll start off the podcast. If you wouldn't mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself, um, and to the people that are listening, and yeah, a bit about yourself. Would that be okay? And a bit about your writing as well would be great.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
My name's Brona Mills. Forgive me, I have a little bit of a croaky throat going on these past couple of days. But I write sci-fi time travel books. I absolutely love the kind of sci-fi, fantasy, paranormal genres and romance as well. I combine a lot of different elements through my different books. So I have two series out just now, and I'm working on the third. The first book I have is The Accidental Time Traveler, which was something that started out as a passion project for me. I never envisioned actually being a writer or having a book published. It started off actually out of stubbornness. If anybody knows me, they'll know that I'm a very stubborn person, like a lot of us. But I actually got through high school and into university before I realized that I was dyslexic. And one of my major things that just um, upset me about the whole thing was that I had failed high school English. And I had just known that had I received that dyslexia diagnosis earlier, along with the help that that we can receive, um, I would have passed that exam. So as I got older in life and started having kids, it was still something in the back of my mind. I wanted to almost prove to myself, um, that I could have done that. I could have passed that exam. I could have passed that course. And I had even toyed after I'd moved over to Dublin. I had toyed about going back to night school and resetting that leaving cert English exam. And I had just had a baby, and I thought, okay, so that's crazy. That's not happening. And then I said, I'd love to write a book. I'd always love to write a book. And for me, that would be a huge achievement and proof to myself that with the right support, and the right work and the time, that that failing high school English, if you like, I could tick that off the bucket list. So that was the Accidental Time Traveler, combined with my love of time travel. The old series, like what was that called? Good Night, Sweetheart, that used to be on the BBC.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and kind of different aspects about going back and changing things in your life. And then once it was finished, I thought, what do I do with it now? So then I went on this journey of discovering self-publishing as well as traditional publishing. And oh my God, it was like anybody who's ever looked into it before. It is about 7 different careers jam packed out there that self publishers all of a sudden have to learn by themselves. Um, so I took about, I'd say, probably another 9 months, a year, learning as much as I could because I didn't have the funds to pay somebody to do everything. I did pay an editor because I was dyslexic. I said I have to pay the editors. But the other things, I really wanted to see where I could save money or learn, from different people, from enrolling in classes and things like that. And before I knew it, the obsession had taken over me. Um, and just following up with different reviews and readers' comments and stuff, I really wanted to continue the series. So yeah, that's kind of the start of it, and how all of a sudden, I've went from dyslexic to 4 books.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great story because being having problems with school myself, I know exactly where you're coming from, and to write a book is like a major thing. So well done, well done with that. And what are the three books you have out at the moment? Four books you have out at the moment, is it?
Yeah, so the Accidental Time Traveler was book one,
Yeah,
and then that finished off with Time Traveler, which was book two,
right.
and then book three is Once Upon a Time Loop. So that is the three in the Time for Infinity series. And then when I was in the middle of writing the last two books, I kind of got a little bit of an urge to do kind of dystopian and a little bit more action and adventure and fighting. So I came out with this one, which is Time Glitch. And that's Saving Dystopia. So that is sort of a young adult dystopian book. So I have still to write book two of that one. But as I started that, like us all the other projects come in. So I'm kind of starting planning out a completely different series as well on sort of our mortal gods and things like that as well.
That's great. Sounds brilliant. Would you mind maybe giving a little introduction to one or two of your books, just for maybe read the back of the book, just to give people a feel for the type of book, please, Brona? Thanks so much.
Do you know what? I'm going to skip over the first book and I'm going to go to the second book.
Yeah,
And the
perfect.
reason I'm
Yeah.
going to go to the second book is because the main character in this one, Stella, I absolutely love her. So the back of the book, following her father's death, 20-year-old Stella has went she's to rags. Alone and pregnant and taking care of her mother, Stella is tough. But when her own life is in danger, help arrives in the form of a stranger who then disappears into thin air. Scientist David has unlocked the keys to time travel and uses his knowledge to save Stella's life over and over. When Stella meets a much younger version of David, a PhD physics student studying time travel, they begin a friendship and love that will change both their lives. Will David turn out to be her salvation or her greatest heartache? Stella loves him enough to keep their shared, devastating future timeline a secret, but to save him, she has to let him go and risk her past survival. Oh.
Wow, that
I'm a
sounds
sucker
brilliant.
for the romance as well.
Yeah, yeah. Great stuff. That sounds brilliant. Yeah, I apologize for that, Brona. We got cut off, so we're on a different connection now. But so before we got cut off, you were just explaining about your cover art to the book. You've done it yourself, and it looks amazing. So we just maybe you want to explain to
Yeah,
the listeners, it'd be great. Thank you.
I'm so excited that you like it because doing the covers was something that took me a long time to learn. In the beginning, when I did publish the first book, I did hire a cover artist because I didn't know what I was doing, and we didn't have time to kind of learn all the different skills that you need. Um, but I did find that the cover that I had in the beginning didn't quite pull in all the elements. It was focused on the romance elements, but it didn't quite get, the sci-fi and the time travel and fantasy elements need as well. So I was keeping an eye on, trends, and the book's covers do seem to change every couple of years. And it was something that kind of freaked me out a little bit because I thought I can't afford to keep changing my book covers constantly to keep up with the trends. So I did want to learn how to do it myself. And it's something now that I can offer to other authors that I know as well. Do you know that we're not shelling out six, seven, €800 every time for a book cover? That you can really bring the price down. I think working locally as well. I was saying to you earlier on. In the beginning, I was terrified of being scammed off of different people. How did I know who I could trust? There's so many different, people claiming to be editors and designers and all these kind of different things. And some people just don't message you back after you've sent them money, and you can hear horror stories. So, especially being over here in Ireland, and the UK is quite small in comparison to all the services that are out in America. So, it was a great way to offer services to other author friends that I had met, that you can do formatting and do the cover designs, and help people with setting up their Amazon accounts and all those things. Everything you can learn yourself, if you've got that time. But especially in the beginning, if you just need that extra little bit of help, it was something that I just loved doing. So it was an extra thing to add to the wheelhouse as well.
That's an absolutely brilliant service you provide there. It's absolutely well done, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you in the podcast later on. So that's amazing. Look, like it's great help for authors. So very well done with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no, great stuff. Yeah, and where can people get your books? Amazon, and are they in bookshops as well?
So just now I'm just on Amazon. So I was on, the white where we could go on to iBooks and Google Books and Smashwords and all those
yeah,
kind of things. But I just came out of that and went into the Amazon KU subscription service. So all the books, ebooks are on Amazon, and the paperbacks are on Amazon as well. I do some what are they called, like Comic Con conventions. And sci-fi conventions, sort of like little pop-up stores, where you can come along and get the books and get the books signed and things like that as well. And they're always really good. I think if you find your genre, if you find where your audience might be, going along, and it's not even just to sell at these things, it's mixing with other people in the industry, other people that might make swag, sci-fi swag, or the cosplay, and other people that are doing events and stuff. It's just brilliant to mix within those little circles. So whatever your genre is, try and find these little markets to go along to as well, because that really helps build your network and your confidence as well.
that's great, Brona. That's great advice for everybody. That's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, because I sell in America myself every Sunday. Yeah, so
Very
that's a
good.
good little outlet as well. Is that
Oh,
something you've looked at yourself?
do you know what? I had thought about doing the kind of general markets and things like that. I did a couple of them at Christmas.
Yeah,
Um, but I found the sci-fi events I did a little bit better at. I
right.
think
Yeah.
just because it's such a niche genre.
Mhm.
Because when you go to a market, you have to find out the people that read books, then you have to find the ones that like the sci-fi and things like
Yeah,
that as well.
yeah,
Yeah, children's books are great for that though, because
yeah,
everybody wants to buy books for their children or their grandkids.
yeah,
And it's not really, yeah, it's more an age category than a finding out the genre, which is good.
yeah. Finding out exactly. And do you want to talk about being a best-selling author in Amazon? That's brilliant. Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that
yeah,
was that took some time to get there.
yeah,
Yeah, that was exciting.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that was actually the second book that I was telling you about earlier on.
yeah.
Time Traveler. It was Amazon's bestseller in the new releases, which was brilliant. It really,
Mm,
really was. It was great to. I think, as an author, when we come up with these stories and get them out in our heads, it can be very, very scary, because you don't know if people are going to like it, if they're not going to like it, if they're going to think you're a little bit nuts.
yeah,
So to see that people like the characters
mm,
and then they wanted to read more as well, was good, because you're not only asking your customers to buy your product, you're
mm,
asking them to invest time in reading it as well. I always like comparing the book business to a chocolate biscuit business. If
okay.
you were selling chocolate biscuits, they're just going to eat the biscuits.
Mhm,
It doesn't take a lot of devotion to eat the biscuits. Whereas if you've written, a 300 or 400 page book, your readers have to sit down and they have to invest, 8 hours over a few weeks sometimes to
yeah,
actually enjoy the whole product. So
mm,
it's quite humbling to think that somebody that you never know has sat down and read the book and wants to read more as well. It's exciting.
that's great. Yeah, no, well done. That's brilliant. Like, best-selling author, great stuff. Yeah, it's a privilege to have yourself on. And do you have like a system in your writing as well, like a strategy that you use when you write, Rona?
Yes and no. I think my strategy is I have no strategy. I'm not too strict with myself or too rigid with myself. My first book took me about 4 years to write, because I had to come up with a story, but then I had to go away and I had to learn how to write. So I spent a good 6 months just researching how to actually write. Then we took a break, and then it was back to it, and then learning how to publish and everything like that. So the first one was the longest one, but so I started when my youngest was about 6 months old, um, and she's 11 now. So my life has changed, and with that, my writing habits, they had to change.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so I didn't get too stuck into what worked. A great thing that I found that worked for I know we spoke about writer's block, or we mentioned writer's block in our emails that we were talking about. Was I didn't have time to have writer's block. I
Yeah,
had a 6 month old baby, I
yeah,
had a 2 year old toddler, and I was working. I didn't have the time to sit in front of a computer and go, oh, I'll have a little think about this for 10 minutes. If I had a 10-minute break, I was up, I was back in the kitchen, I was cooking, I was cleaning, like we're all busy. Everybody's busy these days.
yeah.
Um, and for me, that just worked for me because while I was making the dinner, I was thinking through different things and then I'd write myself a little note. And I think I actually read some advice on writing, and it was like, don't sit down to the computer with nothing to write.
Mm,
So you'd have your few little notes and then I'd sit down, I'd write that away. And somebody had said as well, stop in the middle of that so that you're excited to get back and finish it. Because if you stop at the end and go, right, well, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, it's really hard to get going again. But if you
yeah.
stop somewhere in the middle of that, it's all you can think about and you keep adding to your thoughts throughout the day. So then you're really excited to go back and type it up and finish it up. Um, which was good. And I don't write in order. I don't know how people can sit down and write chapter one, two, three, four, five. I just write whatever kind of comes to mind, and then I think, right, this goes over here, and this comes next, and then I'll come back to that later on. So yeah, I write the good stuff first.
Oh, yeah, but it's Brona, it does sound like you've got a good strategy there, so thank you for that. It sounds like you have a good strategy there, like when you're saying stop in the middle and get all the information in, so that's really, really good. Yeah. And
Yeah,
the
because I've been there. I've been there so many times myself, even recently, where somebody said starting a new book is like starting a new relationship where everything's exciting.
Mhm.
And then once you've got over the good stuff, it's kind of like, oh, right, okay, I don't really want to do this anymore. But if you can kind of keep that excitement going as long as you can,
Yeah,
it just makes it easier to get the job finished.
yeah, great stuff. No, thank you. And do you have a website that you like to share with people as well? To get in contact with
Yeah,
you?
so
Yeah,
my website is bronamills.com.
yeah,
So Brona is BRONAMILLS dot
yeah.
com. So you can find my books on there. I've got different blogs on there as well. I went through a stage in the summer of designing t-shirts and books and just trying to do things to keep me going while the kids were on holiday because it's hard to write when the kids are, running around
Mm.
your feet as well. But I love that creative outlet, that you can still do book related things as well.
Yeah, because that's a brilliant idea. I was only talking to my son about that today. That it's a great idea to kind of get other stuff as long as your book like T-shirts and all that. So that's a great idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even for yourself, from a business point of view, from any writers that are listening, for you to be out wearing your t-shirt or your jumper, I'm actually ashamed of myself. I don't have my jumper on today. I'd normally pop on a sci-fi jumper.
Oh,
Um,
great.
but to kind of pop those things, especially if you've got young kids,
Mhm.
like even like a bookmark or something like that as well. I normally do bookmarks. You can pop them into their school bags, donate them to the schools, all those little things. It just helps because like I say, it's people buying your product and then reading it further down the line. So it's just constantly getting people to see your book over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you obviously you make all this yourself, Brona. You design all the bookmarks and the T-shirts. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. So I do all the designing. I don't do any of the printing. Most of the paper printing comes from the UK. And then the product printing, there's a company out in Malahide, that do the product printing as well for cups. We do. Hang on, have a look here. Um, we have water bottles.
wow,
That's one
that's
of our little
brilliant.
cups from our book nerds.
Brilliant.
Uh,
Yeah,
there's water bottles,
yeah,
hoodies, t-shirts, and things like that as well. But again, from a business point of view, if you've got your book cover or your company logo or your website or something like that, they'll print them up for you if you've got the design of them, or you can get them designed. And then even, when you're on your podcast drinking your tea out of your own cup and things like that as well, it's
yeah,
just all those things that make that little bit of a difference.
yeah. No, that's great thinking. Yeah, and can I ask as well, like, are they competitive? the printers you use, Brona, price wise?
Sorry.
Are they competitive price wise? For
Yeah, do you know
yeah,
what? The ones in Malahide really are, because I went through, all the different kind of dropship companies that would do print on demand, because obviously there's cheaper printers out there, but you have to buy job lots of, 1,000 t-shirts at once
yeah,
to
yeah,
really bring the price right down, which is a huge commitment when it's just like, it's almost like an add-on. It's a bit of fun. We're not a t-shirt company, we're authors.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
So the ones in Malahide, they're actually a dance company, Dance Portal Apparel. I found them at a dance competition that I was at with one of my kids, but they do all their own printing. They've got all their own machines and stuff. But they'll do single printing as well. 2 cups or 5 cups. And they were, for a lot of their items, they were actually cheaper than the European, Eastern European countries and dropship companies as well, which is brilliant. And then, it's a local business as well. That's everybody's supporting everybody.
yeah. That's thanks a lot for sharing. That's really helpful for anybody that's listening. So thanks a million for that, Brownie.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
thank you. Yeah, so it's great to have you on the podcast. And can I just ask you as well, Brownie, what keeps you motivated in your writing? Because it's a motivational podcast I started off doing this with. So just to ask
Yeah.
people that question. Thank you.
What keeps me motivated to write? Um, that's a hard one, because I think the writing is the hardest part of it. The story building, I love. Kind of doing the story building and then kind of writing it down, I find really laborsome. But what I found was, when you were towards the end of the book, maybe like, 3/4 of the way, the plot holes start to fall into place. And that's something that's really exciting.
Yeah, yeah,
Or sometimes the characters take over and they do things that you don't expect them to do. When
yeah,
I was writing one of my books, I remember I had one of those, moments where I didn't know what was going on. So I got up and I left and it went away, and I was cooking the dinner, and it just popped into my head about a character that was dead. And I just went, oh my gosh, I don't want him to die. He can't die. And I was going, no, no, that's not the plan.
yeah.
But it was, the story had evolved into that
Mm,
way. And I was so shocked. I was like, oh, I have to go back and I have to, work this all around, and I have to see which way this is going to go.
yeah,
So I think the motivation comes in waves, and it's knowing, okay, so as writers, we have to sit down and we have to do, the slog of it. But there's excitement to come as well, and there's things to come that you don't even know. And that's really good when you can sit back and think, wow, I don't quite understand how I came to that that
yeah.
conclusion, or that plot twist. But that's good. That's an exciting feeling.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, it's actually funny. I was just thinking there was a conversation I was having today with another author friend at the book launch, or not the book launch, sorry, the book market. Um, basically, when you're writing, would you have in mind an ending, Brona? Like when you have your book, would you have in mind how to end an actual novel or a book?
Yeah, the first book, I started with the ending. At the first book, it was the ending that I had, and then I had to go back and build the whole book. Um, so I always knew what was going to happen in the end. Um,
Yeah.
so for that one, I did. The rest of them I didn't. The rest of them I had kind of, I think, the middle idea or the main plot, with some the kind of sub characters and different ways that things were going to go. And then I had to bring it all together, and then the ending I have found, after that first one, the ending I've always found the hardest. Um so yeah, the endings are hard, I think, because we don't want them to end.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, endings are so final.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think, I know I'm scared of making mistakes. It's like, okay, so if I end the book this way, what happens if 3 months later a, a better ending pops into my mind when I'm doing the dishes, And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, that kind of finality
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
But I think as long as you're taking your time with your book,
you can have that confidence that you've made the right decision. Um, Especially anybody that's self-published just now, there's an awful lot of pressure. Again, seeing people putting out 10 and 11 and 12 books a year, like a book a month people are putting out, and it's almost like we have this fear that we're underperforming, and it's like, hang on a minute, books took years to write. And obviously technology's got quicker, our laptops have got quicker, editing processes have got quicker. We know how to do it quicker now. But like, I mean, if you're getting a book out a year, I still think that's something to be. I'm not getting a book out a year. So anybody that's getting a book out per year, I still think is absolutely fantastic. So it's not a race. We're
No.
here to put out the best thing we can. So if you do need to think a little bit longer to have the confidence that you're making the right ending, then that's absolutely okay. And as much as endings are final, nothing's final anymore. It's very easy to go change an ending, put a note in, upload it onto Amazon.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
don't need to freak out too much.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's very reassuring for people who are listening. Thanks a lot for that, Brona. That's brilliant. Yeah, so
Yeah.
thanks a lot for discussing everything. And this part of the show, I always ask people their favorites. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I know what kind of favorite genre you're going to tell me. I kind of guessed that, but your favorite author. It doesn't have to be a favorite author, but an author that comes to mind that you really like.
Yeah. And it's funny because I started as a reader in the romance genre. I absolutely love romance books. Colleen Hoover is a big one. She's exploded now on TikTok. A few indie authors. There's Catherine Cowles as well. She's absolutely brilliant. An amazing author actually that I kind of followed from the beginning is Elizabeth Stevens. She started writing some really gritty mafia romance books, and she's now kind of spiraled into kind of hard sci-fi romance as well. So they're kind of good to go look at as well. Right now, I'm obsessed with Sarah J. Maas. Has a new book which is coming out. It's either tomorrow or Tuesday. I think it comes out tomorrow, but Amazon's delivering it to me on Tuesday. It's the third Crescent City book. She writes massive, big fantasy, like 700-page books. So I might not be available for about the next 10 days because I'll just be binge reading.
Yeah,
But yeah, anything that has romance in it as well as something else is really going to grab my attention. Um, but I don't actually go for heavy sci-fi books myself. I'm more light sci-fi and a bit into the kind of fantasy, new adult fantasy books as well.
yeah, no, that's great, great stuff. So, Philip K. Dick is one of my favorite. So, the sci-fi and the things. What did because it's a great story about him.
I don't know who it is. Who is it? Sorry.
Philip K. Dick, he done The Running Man, and
Oh yes. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No, I don't see anything like that.
yeah.
I find heavy descriptive books
Okay,
quite
yeah,
difficult to read.
right,
I'm
okay,
more
yeah.
into kind of light and fluffy
Oh,
character
good
led
stuff. Yeah,
books.
yeah, right,
But stuff
yeah,
like that, I love watching on the TV. See if they've
yeah,
adapted into TV shows and movies.
yeah.
I can watch the really epic things like that. But something about the heavy descriptive, I just can't get it in a book. So,
Right. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so I'm
No.
a TV girl for something like that.
Oh, yeah. So that leads us on nicely to movies. Your favorite movie? Your favorite kind
Yeah.
of movie to watch?
Oh God, favorite movie? You can't have a favorite movie.
No,
You can't
no.
just pick one. You
One that comes
can't.
to mind or type
Yeah.
of movie.
So do you know what I love? I love watching comedy stuff. And I think I love watching comedy stuff because when I'm writing, things can get so complicated that I like to just switch off. But if I've not been writing for a while, so like when I took the summer off when the kids were off, I love getting into um, anything that's a little bit complex with like dual realities or different timelines or different universes and things like that as well. So the classics like Terminator 2, do you know, that's your
Oh,
classic
brilliant.
time
Yeah,
travel dilemma.
yeah,
Johnny Darko, all those kind of cult classic movies. And there's some really good new ones as well. Tom Cruise did one with Emily Blunt. Was it The Edge of Tomorrow or something like that, or was
Yeah,
that?
yeah, haven't seen that one. No.
Uh, yeah, The Edge of Tomorrow, I think they did. And then what's your man's name that was in the new Jurassic Park ones? Chris Pratt. He did some kind of time travel alien world thing. The Tomorrow War. That was good. So I like those kind of things.
Very good. Yeah, no, that's a great list there. Thank you. Favorite music, favorite kind of music to listen to. And would you listen to music when you write? Is that something you ever do?
Not really, because when I listen to music, I end up singing along and then I
Yeah,
forget
yeah,
what I'm doing.
of course, yeah,
No, if something's on in the background that I can't really hear, then that's fine. But if there was anything on loud, um, I like pop music. That's so bland, I know. Sort of just, yeah, general pop. Um, Not mad into too many bands. Give me some Taylor Swift or some, one hit wonders.
yeah. Oh, yeah, great stuff. Thank you. And I suppose your favorite places to travel as well. Where's your
Yeah.
favorite place to travel?
Do you know, I wish I could go back and do a load of traveling again. I did a lot of traveling when I was in my 20s. Um, and I think you see things with different eyes at different points in your life.
Yeah,
I think especially now as an author, I would look at places completely differently, as when I did when I was younger. Do you know, I'd be really looking at it from a feeling point of view and a scenery point of view, and thinking of the words that would come from it. Somewhere that I've actually been recently is, do you know Lambay Island, just off the east coast of Dublin?
oh yeah, yeah. I've heard of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
haven't been.
little island. You have to get a boat from Malahide over to Lambay Island. It's full of different species of plants and animals. There's stags and wallabies and things like
Oh
that as
really?
well.
Yeah.
And I went over with my book club, and we had a weekend there. There was the six of us for book club, and I think there was four members of staff living on the island, and that was it. And when I tell you it was the quietest 2 days of my whole life, it was just absolutely tranquil. And it was somewhere that, we had this tiny little beach, on an island, and, you were looking back towards Dublin. And that was lovely. I think
Nice. Yeah.
we forget, like, even coming from Scotland as well and Ireland, like, our countries are beautiful. Like,
Mhm.
people spend a fortune to come and visit Ireland and to come and visit Scotland. And we have to take that time to appreciate it. I was telling you earlier on, I think I've been here for, did I say I've been in Ireland for 16 years?
Yeah, that's
Haven't
right.
even been to the Dublin Mountains. Do you
No.
know? It's probably about 40 minutes away from me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, taking some time to appreciate
Hmm.
the scenery that we have around us, I think is really, really good.
Definitely, definitely. No, thanks so much for that. That's a really good list you said about all the things they asked you. So thanks so much.
No
But
problem.
that's definitely an island I'll be checking out soon. Thank you. And is there anything else I haven't asked you? I suppose what's next for yourself that you'd like to share with the listeners and the people watching on YouTube, Brona?
um, I really to really get focused this year. I was writing out my 2024 goals. And I last year I had went back to college. UCD do a great program. It's level 9 in entrepreneurs and creativity and design, and it was just brilliant from an author's point of view to kind of go through that business process with the creativity. But it was one, and I can easily get distracted. Like I said, I was designing t-shirts during the summer, and then I was, kind of off author services, friends that needed help and support, and it was like, oh, I'll do all these things. But at the end of the day, authors need to write books. That's what we really need to focus on, is getting back and writing books. So my goal this year is to finish off the second book that's going to go with Time Glitch. And I have another book that I'm probably about a quarter of the way through. So if I can get those two books finished this year, that's going to be my main goal. But I, when I say I'm all over the place, I have just taken on some teaching jobs as well. So yeah, I'll throw those in. Throw
You
that
sound
in as well.
you sound a bit like me.
I know, I know.
Yeah. But do you want to read out the other two books before you go? Is or just the summary of the other
Yeah.
two?
But you
Just
know
quick.
what? So this is the other series. So the
Yeah.
Saving Dystopia, Time Glitch is one. So this is a brand new series, new characters and everything.
Right.
So this is Dylan Harvey of Fights for Freedom from a dictatorship-style UK government that has changed civilization as we know it. Behind the scenes, mass murder, social control, and slavery are the things Garvey's rebellious group are trying to take down. Growing up in a dystopian future, 20-year-old Erin fights with the Garvey rebels and has seen more than her fair share of slavery, murder, and kidnapping, all under government control. When Erin and a small group of her rebels' outposts accidentally drop into the past, she figures that they can use their knowledge of what's to come to help those left behind in the future. Seeking out Garvey's help is the top of the list, but in 2019, Garvey is a 26-year-old active soldier loyal to his country, and falling in love with one of his friends is not something Erin has time for, especially when the guy is destined to die before she's even born. Trying to navigate her new plan for change in the future, there are implications on people's lives that Erin never seen coming, and a threat from the future who might be here already. Ooh.
Wow. Your books sound amazing. That's great. Great stuff. Brilliant. Very,
Sometimes my
very
friends read them
gripping.
and go, "What's going on inside your brain?" I'm like, "I know, it's just I have to get it all out."
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, that sounds brilliant. Yeah, so you make sure you send me all the links to your books as well, so we can share them on the show notes for people to buy, and
I will indeed.
I can put on your website as well for people to check out on the show notes. So that's great. Before you go, is there
Perfect.
any kind of just say you had a billboard to write down advice for people in general, like to help them with their writing or whatever they're doing in life. What would you say to them, Brona,
So
your own
this
experience?
advice I heard from someone else, so it's not even my advice. But when it comes to writing a book, everyone's looking for the magic thing or the magic motivation that's going to get them over the hurdle. Um, and the thing that I heard that just made me laugh and giggle was just do it. That's it.
Right.
If you want to just do it. If you go around going, what's the key to writing a book? Just do it. And it is. It's you just have to get down and do it. Like we said, sometimes there is those grind days where we don't want to do it, and you have to just do it. You have to sit down and do it. For motivation in life, um, probably just do it as well. If
Yeah.
there's something that you know you really want to do, um, and you think it's going to improve your life, then give it a go. Um, sometimes things don't work out the way that we think they will, but I think as long as you have good intentions, and this is what I always say, because some times things don't go to plan, or you might be talking to a friend or a family member, and you know something's happened and they've said, that was the wrong decision, I can't believe I did that. I don't think there's wrong decisions in life as long as they've come from a good place. So, with the information that you had at the time, if you made the best decision that you thought was going to be the best outcome, that's all you can do. We can't predict the future. We don't. Time travel is not real. you
Exactly.
know, we have to go with what we have. So, make the decision based on what you've got. And see what happens.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice. Thanks a million for that, Brownie, for sharing that. So, I wish you all the success going forward with everything you do in your writing and your entrepreneurs and all your printing. It's amazing. And so, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Perfect.
yeah, and thanks to everybody for listening and watching on YouTube. Mark's Motivational Podcast with Brona Mills, great author there, award-winning author on Amazon. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Hello, everyone. Mark here. Thank you for watching another episode of my Authors Tuesday podcast. I recently published a book of children's stories called The Adventures of Larry Lamppost and Friends. The book began life as bedtime stories I wrote for my own children. If you'd like to purchase my book, follow the link in the description box below. By buying my book, you are also supporting my podcast series for authors.
which is giving a voice to writers in Ireland and across the world.